My name is Martha, and I'm 82 years young, though some days I feel like I've lived 100 years, and some days I feel like I'm just starting. I live in a small, sturdy house nestled among the pine trees in coastal Maine, the kind of place where the salty air always finds its way in, and the sound of gulls is a constant companion. Every morning, I wake up before the sun, even now, and make myself a cup of Earl Grey tea. The quiet of the house used to be a comfort, a peaceful space where I could remember my dear husband, Thomas, and the laughter of our children when they were small. But as the years turned into decades, and my children moved far away with their own bustling lives and grandchildren I only saw in photographs, that quiet started to feel heavy. It became a silence that echoed, a constant reminder of how much life had shrunk around me. I spent my days puttering, tending my small garden in the summer, knitting warm scarves in the winter, and reading stacks of books borrowed from the library. Each task felt important, a way to prove to myself that I was still capable, still contributing, even if only to my own small world. But deep down, a little voice, my internal nemesis, whispered that I was slowly fading, becoming invisible, just another old woman living out her days alone. It told me that the world had moved on, and I had been left behind, with nothing much left to offer. That was my biggest struggle, not the aches in my joints or the difficulty reaching the top shelf, but the gnawing fear that my purpose had run its course. My biggest dream, if I still dared to dream, was simply to feel truly connected to someone again, to share a laugh or a worry that wasn't just spoken to the four walls of my home. One blustery autumn afternoon, while I was trying to figure out why my old flip phone wouldn't hold a charge, I heard the little ding sound. It was an unfamiliar notification. I fumbled with the tiny buttons and finally managed to open a text message. It read, "Hey, are you coming to practice? Coach is gonna be mad if you miss again." I blinked. Are you? What in the world did that mean? I certainly wasn't coming to any practice. I didn't even know what kind of practice it was. My first thought was to ignore it, as I often did with strange numbers, but something in the informal, slightly urgent tone made me pause. Perhaps someone truly needed a reply. So, with painstaking slowness, I typed out, "I believe you have the wrong number, dear. This is Martha." I sent it, feeling a small ripple of satisfaction that I had done my good deed for the day. A minute later, my phone dinged again. "Oh, sorry, my bad. Hope you have a good day, Martha." I smiled. A polite young person, despite the strange texting language, I typed back, "No harm done, you have a good day as well." And that I thought was the end of it, but it wasn't. A few days later, another text popped up from the same number. "Hey Martha, it's me again. My friend dared me to text a random number and say hi." "So hi," I chuckled aloud, a sound that rarely escaped my lips these days. This was certainly something new. I decided to play along. "Well, hello there, Daredevil." "My name is still Martha. Who might you be?" The reply came almost instantly. "I'm Jamie, and I guess I'm a little bored, lol." I had to ask my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, what lol meant, and she explained it was laughing out loud. It felt strange, this little window into a world I barely understood. Jamie and I started to text, sporadically at first. Sometimes it was just a "how are you?" or a "what are you up to?" From them, and I would describe my day, making bread or watching the waves crash against the shore. I tried to ask about their life, but Jamie was often vague, responding with short phrases or emojis I didn't quite grasp. My internal nemesis would sometimes whisper, "They're just being polite, Martha. They don't really care. You're bothering them." But then Jamie would send another message, and a flicker of hope would ignite. I found myself looking forward to the ding, a small light in my quiet world. I even found myself trying to learn some of the texting lingo from old magazines in the library, feeling a little silly but also a little thrilled. One week, Jamie's texts started to change. They were less about random greetings and more about frustration. "School sucks today," one read. Another said, "My friends are being totally annoying." I tried to offer gentle advice, sharing a story about how my own friends in high school sometimes had their squabbles, or how school could be a challenge but was also a gift. Jamie didn't always respond to my longer messages, which felt like little essays compared to their quick replies. Sometimes days would go by without a word. My heart would sink, and the heavy silence of the house would press in on me even more. I'd think, "See, Martha? It was too good to be true. They've moved on, found real friends." One particularly bleak November evening, the wind howled around my house, rattling the windows and making the old timbers creak. It felt like the very house was groaning under the weight of the coming winter, and so was I. My arthritis was flaring up, making even knitting a chore, and I had slipped on a patch of ice that morning, thankfully not breaking anything, but leaving me shaken and bruised. I was feeling particularly vulnerable and forgot. Just then, my phone dinged. It was Jamie. I don't know what to do anymore, Martha. Everything feels really hard right now, like I'm just messing everything up. This text was different. It wasn't just vague annoyance. It held a deeper sadness, a raw pain that I recognized all too well from my own quiet struggles. My heart ached for this stranger, this young person I only knew through short messages. I wanted to help, to offer comfort, but what could an 82-year-old woman in Maine say to a teenager who felt lost? I typed out a long message about how important it was to talk to someone you trusted, a parent or a school counselor. I waited and waited. No reply. 2 days passed. Then 3. The silence from Jamie's number was deafening. My internal nemesis came back with full force. You meddled, Martha. You pushed too hard. Now you've scared them off and you're worse off than before. You should have just stayed quiet. I felt a profound sense of failure, not just for myself, but for failing to reach out to someone who sounded truly in need. I even considered deleting Jamie's number, cutting off the last fragile thread of connection. The wind howled again, and I felt a chill that went deeper than the cold outside. I felt truly, utterly alone, believing I had lost the only new connection I had made in years, and perhaps even made things worse for someone else. I had almost given up. I told myself it was for the best, that I was too old to be getting involved in the complicated lives of teenagers. I had even stopped checking my phone for the little ding. But then, one crisp December morning, nearly a week after Jamie's last message, my phone rang. It wasn't a text, it was a call. My old flip phone screen showed unknown number. My heart pounded. I almost didn't answer, but some instinct, a tiny flicker of hope that had stubbornly refused to die, made me press the green button. "Hello," I said, my voice a little shaky. "Martha, it's Jamie," a soft, hesitant voice said on the other end. "I'm so sorry I haven't texted. My phone got taken away for a while, and I really needed to talk to someone." My eyes welled up. It was real. Jamie's voice was filled with a vulnerability that tore at my heart. "Oh, Jamie," I said, tears silently tracking down my cheeks. "I was so worried. Are you all right?" Jamie then poured out their heart, telling me about struggles at school, a big fight with a best friend, and feeling immense pressure from their parents. They said they felt invisible, like nobody really understood them, that they were scared of failing. And then, Jamie said something that stopped me cold. "Your texts, Martha, they were like a little window. You didn't judge me. You just listened, even though you didn't know me. You made me feel like I wasn't completely alone." And in that moment, something shifted within me too. My internal nemesis, the one that whispered I was useless, finally quieted down. I realized that my own quiet wisdom, my experiences from 82 years of life, actually meant something. I had been so focused on what I lacked, what I had lost, that I hadn't seen what I still possessed: empathy, kindness, and the ability to truly listen. I told Jamie about my own fears, about feeling invisible, about missing my husband, about the loneliness. It was the first time I had truly opened up to anyone in years, not just politely, but with my whole heart. It was a leap of faith for both of us. From that day on, our friendship deepened. Jamie didn't just text anymore, they called. We talked about everything: their schoolwork, their friends, their dreams of going to art school, and my memories of growing up, the changing seasons in Maine, and the lessons life had taught me. I even learned to use a video call app on my phone, thanks to Jamie's patient instructions, and we had our first face-to-face conversation. Seeing Jamie's bright, earnest face, full of life and potential, was like a breath of fresh air. It filled a void in my heart I hadn't realized was so vast. Our connection truly saved us both. Jamie found a safe space to share their worries and dreams, someone who offered unconditional support. And I, Martha, found a new purpose. The loneliness that had shrouded my home for so long began to lift, replaced by a warmth that came from knowing I was making a difference. I started to volunteer at the local library, reading stories to children, something I hadn't done since my own children were small. I even joined a knitting group at the community center, something I never would have done before, and found wonderful camaraderie there. I share my stories, and I listen to theirs. Jamie, in turn, started to thrive. They found new confidence, became more open with their family, and even started painting again, something they had given up during their difficult time. They even visited me once during their spring break, traveling all the way to Maine. We sat on my porch, watching the waves and sharing stories, no longer just voices on a phone, but true friends. We still talk almost every day, and Jamie sometimes jokes that my old flip phone was actually a magic portal. I often think about that first accidental text. Was it truly an accident? Or was it fate, guiding two lonely souls, one young and one old, to find each other across the miles and remind them both that no one is ever truly alone, and that even the smallest act of reaching out can create a ripple effect of hope and connection that changes everything? My heart is full now, no longer heavy with quiet, but vibrant with a friendship that bloomed from a mistaken number, proving that sometimes, the most unexpected paths lead to the most beautiful destinations.